Look at me, right here. Let me let you in on a little secret before we even think about unlocking tonight's file. In 1973, the government tried to burn every single trace of its darkest sins. But they missed a spot. A single, highly classified index survived, detailing a project so twisted, it goes by the name of Operation Midnight Climax. If you stay close and stick with me until the very final minutes of this video, I'm going to whisper the exact details of what those federal agents were secretly watching behind two-way mirrors in those private rooms, and the chilling proof that they never actually stopped playing this game. Don't look away for a second, darling, because this changes absolutely everything. Have you ever looked at a headline or heard a rumor so completely insane that you laughed out loud and called it pure paranoia? We love to think we live in a logical world, a world where the things we see in movies, mind control, state-sponsored sabotage, corporate assassinations, are just creative scripts meant to entertain us. But let me ask you this. What happens when the line between science fiction and reality completely dissolves? What happens when the exact theories mocked by the mainstream media for decades are suddenly, quietly, stamped with an official government seal of authenticity? No way, Mila. You're exaggerating, right? Wrong. The truth is, some of the wildest, most terrifying conspiracies whispered about in dark internet forums weren't just true. The reality was actually much worse. Today, we are cracking open the vault of the absurd. The files they tried to burn, the projects they swore were myths, and the undeniable proof that paranoia is sometimes just an advanced awareness of the truth. You've all seen Stranger Things, right? The massive show that just wrapped up recently in 2026? We watch those poor kids locked in cold, underground labs, subjected to psychological trauma to awaken superhuman abilities. It feels like ultimate Hollywood fiction. But what if I told you the Duffers didn't invent that nightmare? They just adapted it from a real-world project codenamed MK Ultra. Back in 1953, at the absolute height of the Cold War, the CIA was gripped by a paralyzing fear that the Soviets and the Chinese had unlocked the secrets of brainwashing. Their response? We have to weaponize the human mind before they do. They wanted to master the art of erasing memories, breaking psychological resistance, and rewriting personalities. A real-life Jason Bourne program. To do this, they didn't just use standard science. They funded over 150 top-secret sub-projects using drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and extreme psychological torture. And the most sinister part? The victims were American and Canadian citizens who had absolutely no idea they were guinea pigs. Patients, prisoners, and everyday students. For decades, if you said the government was secretly drugging civilians to find a mind control serum, you were labeled a lunatic. The CIA denied everything, until the day the paper trail caught up with them. Okay, let's look at the actual receipts, because this is where things get truly wild. In 1973, when rumors started boiling over, the CIA director ordered the immediate destruction of all MK Ultra files. Talk about trying to erase history, right? But luckily for us, bureaucracies are messy. A few boxes of mislabeled financial records survived, leading to a massive 1975 Senate investigation that proved a secret domestic psychological war had been running for 20 years. But they weren't just trying to control human minds. They wanted to weaponize nature itself. I wish I was making this up, but declassified files exposed a multi-million-dollar 1960s program called Acoustic Kitty. Surgeons literally implanted a microphone into a cat's ear canal, a transmitter in its skull, and wove an antenna through its fur. On its very first field mission to spy on a park bench, the poor cyborg feline was immediately run over by a taxi. Project canceled. But if animal spies sound like a cartoon, What about an undetectable weapon? In that same 1975 hearing, the world watched in absolute horror as the CIA presented a literal heart attack gun. This battery-operated device fired a microscopic dart loaded with a rare shellfish toxin. It caused an immediate cardiac arrest that looked 100% natural to medical examiners, leaving only a tiny red dot that dissolved completely during an autopsy. A perfect, untraceable state assassination tool. How did they hide this for decades? Operation Mockingbird. Over 400 top journalists and media executives were secretly working as agency assets, shaping exactly what you believed to be reality. At the same time, the FBI was running a domestic sabotage program called COINTELPRO, which illegally infiltrated activist groups. They even sent an anonymous, deeply twisted blackmail letter to Martin Luther King Jr., trying to convince him to take his own life. And don't think this toxic manipulation stopped in the 70s, or that it's only a government habit. Corporate giants do the exact same thing. Remember when everyone called you paranoid for saying Apple was intentionally slowing down your old iPhone? Well, in 2017, hard data forced Apple to admit they were throttling older processors, resulting in a historic $500 million legal settlement. Or look at the auto industry. Internal documents exposed that Ford deliberately sold the 1970s Pinto, knowing the fuel tank could rupture and explode in a rear-end crash. Why? Because a cold-blooded corporate analysis proved it was cheaper to pay off the legal settlements for burn victims and deaths than to spend $11 per car to fix the design flaw. You gotta be kidding me, right? Even what we eat is engineered by massive lies. Historical documents published in 2016 revealed that the sugar lobby secretly paid off Harvard scientists in the 1960s to publish heavily biased research. The goal? Minimize the health risks of sugar and blame heart disease entirely on fat. It's the exact same playbook used by tobacco CEOs, who swore under oath before Congress in the 90s that nicotine wasn't addictive, while their own internal lab files from the 50s stated it was highly lethal. And where do the modern titans of these industries go to celebrate their wins? Every single July, the world's most powerful men, billionaires, media moguls, and US presidents disappear into the California redwoods for a private retreat called the Bohemian Grove. For decades, it was dismissed as a wild conspiracy myth, until an undercover journalist snuck in with a hidden camera and captured the elite wearing dark robes, chanting, and symbolically burning human anxieties at the foot of a massive 40-foot stone owl. You literally cannot make this stuff up. Look, when you step back and look at all these puzzle pieces, a very clear, chilling picture begins to emerge. The mainstream narrative loves to frame these events as isolated mistakes from the past, or corporate greed that eventually got caught. But I don't buy that for a second, and honestly, neither should you. When you connect MKUltra to Operation Mockingbird and COINTELPRO to things like the Bohemian Grove, you realize we aren't looking at accidents. We are looking at a highly coordinated, continuous system of control. They manipulate the media you watch, the tech you buy, the food you eat, and the science you trust. If they were building heart attack guns and wiring up domestic spy networks 50 years ago with analog technology, what do you think they are deploying right now behind closed doors in the age of advanced AI and mass data harvesting? The paranoia of yesterday is literally just the history textbook of today. And for those of you who were curious and stayed until the very end, let's close that open loop about MKUltra's darkest corridor. Operation Midnight Climax. When the congressional investigations forced open those few surviving files, they uncovered a sub-project that sounded like absolute madness. In the 1950s, the CIA set up secret, unmarked safe houses in San Francisco and New York. They hired local operational assets to lure unsuspecting citizens to these apartments. Once inside, the targets were covertly dosed with massive amounts of LSD and other experimental psychological chemicals. But here is the kicker. The CIA agents didn't just watch the psychological breakdown. The files revealed the apartments were fitted with large two-way mirrors, and agents sat behind them for hours, sipping cocktails, recording the psychological distress, and studying how to weaponize sexual blackmail and chemical trauma for state control. This wasn't happening in a war zone. It was happening to regular people going out for a drink on a Friday night. And because the vast majority of those files were completely destroyed in 1973, the true scale, the final conclusions, and the names of the thousands of civilians whose minds were permanently fractured are lost to history. They claimed the project ended, but when an agency builds a mechanism of absolute psychological control, they never truly throw away the key. Which of these debunked truths shocked you the most? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below. Sending a huge, massive hug straight to your heart. And may God bless you all so much. See ya in the next file. Bye-bye.